Okay. Okay. The Cabin in the Woods seems to me is very much about the nature, well, our voyeuristic nature and the nature of horror itself. I was wondering what you think the appeal of horror is and why it's endured so much.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, clearly, I think it taps us into our primal instincts, but
Yeah.
it does so in the safety of a theater. And there's something that's fun about that and experiencing that with a crowd around you. You know, it's safe, but you can still, celebrate our darker sides.
Yeah.
And there's, I notice when I'm sitting in a theater, there's nothing more fun than hearing everyone scream around you and laugh and cheer all at the same time. And that's the sort of thing that only happens in horror movies.
Yeah, sure. And Jesse, you now come, part of a long tradition of doomed youths who enter the woods to their peril.
Yes.
What
Gladly.
sets you and your fellow cast members aside from the hordes of doomed teens?
I think something that sets this group of kids apart from the other ones is that we're kind of on its face. We are immediately, you can kind of tell there's a bit of a classic archetype being laid out before you.
Yeah.
But unlike other films that either kind of use that model and then for some reason try to run from it and pretend that they're not using that model, or outright spoofing that model, we're doing neither. We're just kind of turning it right in the face of it and running right towards it and kind of redefining how that can be used.
Sure.
And I think that it's also more about the interplay between them and how well they know each other. And I think it really attaches itself nicely to the audience, because horror films, the audience always tries to, they picture what would they do in that situation. Why are you doing that? I mean, that's what you're constantly yelling at the screen. Turn that way. Why? Oh, that's stupid. Why'd you fall? All these things. You're kind of clinging on to something, and these characters give you plenty to grasp onto just in time to kind of take a hard left.
Sure. I mean, it is part traditional horror flick and part subversive approach, and how easy is it to strike that balance between the two?
It's hard. Tone is the hardest part of this movie, and we ask so much of our actors because our actors are essentially playing two different roles. They're playing a character and they're playing an archetype, and oftentimes they're vacillating between the two things as it's happening. And so we had to look high and low to find people that could do it, because it requires a tremendous degree of difficulty.
Yeah.
And so we were, watching it very closely every day just to find that proper balance between the two.
Sure. Well, there's another balance as well between comedy and scares, and how important do you think it is to strike that balance too? And how closely are scares and laughs related, do you think?
I do feel like they're very much, opposite sides of the same coin. I've always felt that when people get really scared, they want that release.
Yeah.
They want to laugh afterwards, that sort of everything's going to be okay. And as a result, things get much funnier when you're in that heightened state of panic.
Yeah, sure. You talked a bit about archetypes, and I wondered, Jesse, how happy you were with your archetype, and were there others that you'd like to play, perhaps the fool, the athlete, or the villain?
I really loved mine. I thought that's something I really gravitated towards. I think it's gave me an opportunity to kind of play a different part of myself that doesn't necessarily come out, but also people I've known in the past, in school or just mates of mine or whatever. See, I squeezed that in.
There you go.
That was nice. But yeah, that was really something that attracted me right away, was to play this kind of square, kind of socially awkward person that's constantly trying to find their center, kind of find a space to really have a foundation, and that's constantly, this ground is slippery, and that's weird, and that's also part of adolescence, that's part of your teenage years, that's part of going to a new school. This was in many ways a new school for my character. He's coming in with these 5 new characters, getting in this new vehicle, going to this new kind of place off in the unforeseen territory. So that was fun to kind of be unhinged in that way.
Sure. And I mean yourself and Joss are obviously genre enthusiasts. How important was it for you and the other cast to know your horror and be an enthusiast?
We kind of took it upon ourselves under once we got to Vancouver to shoot this thing, to study up even more than we already had a background. Everybody, I think, most people who liked movies in some form and weren't too terrified to even play the game have seen some horror in the past. But we studied up and watched, our DP, Peter Deming, shot Evil Dead, so we made sure to kind of have a lot of fun watching that and the sequels, and just getting a sense of context, right? Knowing the rules so that we can break the rules.
Yeah.
Right? Getting a sense of foundation, because this is not even in the ballpark of replicating anything. It's just knowing what field that you're playing in what's been done before,
Yeah.
And all that made us appreciate this script and this project all the more.
Well,
Tom, sorry, we have to finish. I've been waiting
sure.
for you.
Oh, right, sorry.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, cheers,
Thanks,
guys.
man.